Hi guys, and welcome to this Indiegogo campaign video for my documentary They Call Us Channelers. My name's Kevin Moore, and since October 2008, whilst at university, I started hosting the chat show called The Moore Show on YouTube. I've been interviewing people from across the world on the subjects of consciousness, the paranormal and spirituality. Now, covering these subjects and interviewing so many researchers in these fields has shifted my understanding and truth. But the biggest change I went through was in January 2015 when I started to channel. Now, channeling to me is just a form of energy exchange. It's an ability to bring in teaching information into this present moment right now, enabling us all to bring more understanding and peace to our lives. So in this documentary, I'll be traveling across the world meeting channelers from the UK, America, parts of Europe, Dubai, Australia and Asia. Now, my intentions for this documentary is to showcase that we all have this ability to tap into our more natural state of who we already are, just as writers, artists, poets and scientists naturally do all the time, and expanding the word channeling, and also not forgetting just how important the human experience is as well. Now, I plan to dive really deep with the channelers, to ask the channelers the questions they've never been asked before, to show people that there potentially is a reality that's never been brought through before, and by asking these deep questions, it will only bring us back more into the present moment. So we've already gone into production for the documentary, as we've had a few private donors go beyond the call of duty, which has enabled me to buy the camera equipment and film channelers across some parts of the UK and Europe. Now, we're looking to raise $15,000, as this will pay for the international travel costs, post-production, distribution and also promoting the film at film festivals next year. So I really need your help, guys, in making this a reality. Now, your energy exchange will mean so much. Remember, we're all in this together. This is oneness at its best, as this will really help people expand their reality even further and help people make sense of why things are the way they are. So if you feel drawn to help out, then in the description of this video you'll see the links to our Indiegogo campaign, and no matter what you can donate, all donations receive a digital copy of the documentary before the general public when it's released next year, and also a thanks in the credits for the video. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and the transparency that I'm showing in this video, just thank you so much. This has been a year's worth of my journey to get to this point now, and it was September 2016 when the idea for the documentary came to me. And your donation, your help, just even sharing this video means so much to me. So much love, thank you for watching, and we'll catch up with you on an update soon. Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. Now, for the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Bernard Alvarez. Now, Bernard is a world-renowned spiritual consciousness teacher and intuitive. He is the author of the Book of One and was featured in the film Collective Evolution 3: The Shift. Now, Bernard offers personal intuitive spiritual mentoring and counseling, as well as courses and workshops on one's higher self, soul's journey and path to divine awareness. Now, as a sacred activist, Bernard sees that there must be a balance in creating outward change as well as internal spiritual change. And Bernard Alvarez, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me back, Kevin. It's great to see you again.
Oh, it's beautiful to see you, my friend, back again. It wasn't that long ago that we did our previous interview, and I've got you back on because, you know, we're doing a documentary. I wanted to announce to the audience that you're going to be a participant on the documentary, and I thought that was really important to get you back on, and also to have an update from you as well, because there's been lots of changes going on.
Oh yes. On many levels, yes.
Yes. So how are you, my friend? How are you doing right now?
I'd say right now everything is going fantastically. Staying busy, and just I seem to be having a renaissance of energy moving through me, which is just absolutely perfect timing for your upcoming project.
That is beautiful. Yes, that is beautiful because we're going to meet you in, I believe, Virginia.
Yes,
Yeah, in the state of Virginia, and I'm really looking forward to coming in person to do this filming with yourself. And
that'd be great.
I mean, where that came from, where these documentaries come from, there's, I don't know. This has been a calling since a year ago. Actually, yes, it was a year ago in September when I was living in Amsterdam when I came up with this idea for doing this documentary. So it's funny that it's almost a year to the date when we're doing this interview as
Wow.
well, so that's quite beautiful. So yeah, we were just saying there about the changes that that you've been going through. I mean, I think as people in this field that interview the people in the paranormal consciousness and spiritual fields, there has been a lot of change going on in the land of YouTube. It just a whole shift, hasn't there, in the sense of how we make our money and how we survive doing this work as well.
Yes, you can say that again, and it's led me to be more creative. That's for sure.
Right, right. So because you're now doing more online courses as well.
Yes, absolutely. I've started a project called Consciousness Academy on my website. I've only got one course up so far, but I'll be working on more in the coming months and hopefully releasing. I have a course called the Awakening Code, which I hope to have up by the Christmas time holiday to make a great gift to help people awaken for the holidays.
Absolutely, of course it will, of course it will. And your channel is only expanding, it's only growing right now as well, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
For those who may not know, I'll be very quick here. There was a shift in the way YouTube was paying out its participant. Well, what would you call them? It was we're classed to
We've
them
been
as
using the over here in the U.S. We've been using the term the YouTube ad apocalypse.
apocalypse. That's another good word for what's going on. Yes.
And what they did was they just removed all basically everyone's revenue share. For those of you that don't know, many of us on YouTube get a percentage of those ads that you see. And long story short, some bad person put up a bad video and it was getting advertised on Google. All the corporations, I should say, pulled all their advertising from YouTube, so there was no ad revenue to share, which is it was very scary at the beginning. But if anything, I love the fact that it sparked some creativity in me, and not to put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Yes. Absolutely, and it's and some people actually, there were some hosts I know of that actually stopped doing their shows, which was kind of sad in a way. But I think when anything like this happens, it just, when the universal rug's pulled beneath your feet, it really shakes you up in different ways. And it made me become much more aware that actually, by asking for money, it's okay. Asking for people's help, that it's an okay thing to do.
Yes, yes. I discovered Patreon. I don't know if you're using it, but Patreon is a way for your viewers to become patrons of your work, and utilizing like micro donations. Most of my donors give me like $2 a month, and depending on how much they give, I give them little gifts back, like
Yeah.
copies of my book or free access to the course or something like that. Or actually, that now I'm giving them credits at the end of my video as well.
Oh wow, that's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah.
So, if people want, the services that you do are on your website as well, and your website is?
My website is bernardalvarez.com, and I've just redesigned the whole thing. So please go check it out. I'm really proud of the work that has been coming out lately. Again, I'm not much of a technology guy. I thank the Emissaries of Light for working through me and just moving and doing the things I don't know how to do.
Well, you're doing a good job because it looks great, and you've been at this for a long time. You've actually had your YouTube channel since 2006.
Yes,
I think.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe that. Neither when I looked at it earlier on, I was like, oh wow, yes, you have been at this a lot longer. Yeah. So I mean, when did you start this as a sort of full-time job?
Very interestingly, it was about 2006.
Was it?
They kind of, when I say they, I'm referring to the Emissaries of Light, the guides that I work with, and kind of like the same thing that happened now. The rug was pulled out from under me. I had owned a business in Miami, Florida. We had Hurricane Wilma come through and destroy many businesses, and mine was one of them. And I decided, all of a sudden, I became popular on YouTube as an activist, and YouTube made me a partner, and I started making enough money to pay the rent, and it was great. Now, of course, I'm lucky to be able to pay the electricity with that, but back then, being one of the early partners, we did very well. As a matter of fact, back in 2007 through about 2008 or 9, I was the #3 activist YouTube channel in the world.
Wow.
I was #3 for like 3 or 4 years.
Yes. Yes, because that's something very dear to your heart as well, the activism. And I know you post quite a bit of that on Facebook as well. Okay, so that's I now remember. Now, if anyone wants to see our previous interview, which would be a little bit different to this, obviously I'll just link it below in the description as our first interview. And I want to go straight into with the guys that you're working with as well. Emissaries of Light, are they always there in the work that you do?
Always. We have an agreement, actually. I'll share that with you. When I first started working with them, first of all, I was introduced to them during my shamanic vision quest, and they were always in the background. And I kind of put it off because I was still a very successful business person, and to me, I wanted to be young and have fun. And I was only in my 20s. So my 20s and 30s, I still played, and then everything kind of evolved. And when they came back, I was literally asked by one of the people I worked on a project with, Annabelle Montalbano. She was the one who said, "You need to have them come back and explain your book," because they gave me like 20 messages. If you read my book, there's about 20 messages, and we wanted more answers. So she had me channel them again. But what started happening is that they would literally take over for hours at a time, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that feeling of having them just have complete control. I'm trying to bring my consciousness back. And they're like, "Oh, Bernard wants to come back." And they would be like, funny about it. It's like, "Oh, we have more work to do. He'll have to wait." But so I really started getting aggravated with it. So I kind of asked them, I said, "Listen, I would like you to work with me, but more, I'd like to continue the work, but more at my choosing." And basically what they said is, "We will integrate." And I didn't know quite what that meant. But integrate meant that they would just become a part of my thought process. For those of you that know about this kind of work, many of us get a lot of these downloads. And so instead of having them come through me and speak through me, and it was very interesting, because if you go back in the history of my YouTube channel, go back to the early days where I was channeling them on camera, you'll notice they had like many different personalities. There are 7 of them. And some of them would speak a certain way, use a certain dialect and whatnot. And I found that to be confusing for the viewer. So as well, I said, why don't we just let me speak? You tell me what to say, and I'll do it instead of letting you take over my consciousness. So I had to come to that kind of agreement because, to be honest with you, it was just a little irritating, and I didn't like the sensation of having somebody else take over,
Absolutely. Now, your heritage. What is your heritage as well?
Well, my birth parents were Native American DNA, and my mother was DNA, which most Americans know that as Apache, and my father was Irish. So I've always been drawn to the Celtic and Native American, but I was raised in a Cuban family in Miami. So I was always surrounded by the Afro-Cuban spirituality. So I've always been pretty lucky having a little bit of access to all of this kind of stuff most of my life.
Wow, Native American. Oh my gosh. And are you still in contact with any of your family ancestry as well, or anyone that may be still alive in the...
To be honest with you, I've never bothered to research my birth parents other than what my family has told me, what they knew about them. And I've needed to for health reasons, but I just
Yeah.
never came around. But it never really mattered that much to me.
You know, yeah. I mean, I've got channelers coming on from all over the world in this documentary because I wanted to show no matter what ethnic background or wherever you are in the world, you know, we all have this innate ability, right? And
Yes.
the Indian background, native Indian, that is fascinating to me because I've always wondered in America, were the native Indians channeling as well, and was that a part of their culture, but said in another way?
I believe so. Most of the indigenous cultures here in the United States always talked about the sky beings, and of course we have the shaman who is always going in between the planes of consciousness and bringing information back,
Yes.
which is probably why I was drawn to it so innately, and that was the first major work that I did in this was to do shamanic vision quests, and that's kind of what opened up the whole world of channeling to me.
So when you channel now, do you give that in any of your readings? Is when you, because I know you do some tarot readings as well, or a tarot
Yes,
reading.
yes,
Is that a tarot
yes.
with intuitive with them there as well?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's very interesting because when someone has a session with me, they'll ask my opinion, and then they'll say, "Well, can you ask your guides what they think?" So, and I do differentiate. I'm like, "Well, they're telling me this, or I'm feeling this, but they're telling me this." And the funny thing about it is, you can usually tell if I'm doing a reading with somebody who is coming through because I'm a bit more diplomatic and they're kind of just in your face and you must stop doing this, or
Right.
they're a little bit more like mom, the teacher scolding you need to be doing this.
Well, is there times when you don't listen to them for yourself, and when you don't
Oh,
listen, you wish you had, but they're always
oh,
still there to
yes,
say, "Look, we're still here. We know you didn't listen, but we're still here."
absolutely, absolutely. And it happens all the time, and I can't say how looking back on those experiences, how comical it is for me to think that I can get away with ignoring the suggestions or the advice. It's almost like shooting yourself in the foot, and they're like, "We told you not to shoot yourself in the foot."
But we still love you, and we're going to stick with you no matter what you
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I will say that even during times of despair, let's say, like for example, when that whole YouTube thing happened,
Oh
I
yes.
was really shaken up.
Yes.
I was very shaken up. I was very concerned about how am I going to pay my bills and whatnot. And we're going to take care of you. And I was like, well, how? They're like, you need to know that this work is more important than your comfort or what you're used to. Things will change in the physical world, but the work that you're doing must continue, and it will find a way to be heard.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I know what you're saying is truth because I've been there myself with when it was happening to me. When they're telling me what they're telling me, and I've not gone with it. But something that you've just said there that strikes home a lot. Very powerful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how beautiful is that as well? So beautiful. You call in your book. You've got the name, and we've said this in a previous interview, but we've both interviewed a lot of people since then. You call it the group The One. Where did you get the name The One from?
Yes. They that's the way it came through to me. It was very interesting. As I was writing the book, they kept referencing the word one. They kept referencing the word one, and within the one, and years later, I had to literally just ask them. Annabelle and I just kind of came out and said, "Well, why do you call yourselves one?" And the answer to that was that they have evolved to a place where their consciousness is all linked into one consciousness. And while they may have individual perspective and perceptions, their consciousness is one consciousness that is also linked with source consciousness. So it is all one consciousness. And they kept really trying to drill that into me. And I said, well, you're a collective. You are seven emissaries of light. They're like, but we are one. We are one. And that's what they kept saying. We are one. So I said, okay, well, then I'll call you one, the emissaries of light. And they were, yep, that'd be perfect.
Well, you've called in chapter 2 in the book. It's called The One, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what I've been channeling as well. The group called The One, and isn't
Ooh.
isn't that interesting? Isn't that
I
interesting?
love it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's another young lady from Australia that's been channeling the group called The One that's going to be on this documentary as well. Now she
Wow.
contacted me when I started to release some videos back in 2015, called The One. They're on my YouTube channel still now, and she said, "Listen, I've seen your videos. I just wanted to let you know you're not alone. You know, I've also been channeling this group called The One as well." And I was like, no way. Do you know what I mean? I thought I made that name up. I've been
Right, right.
losing the absolute plot for the past few months, right? And so we spoke on Skype, with her, and and she's still connected with the group now. So I wanted to include her in the documentary. She's on the documentary
Wow.
under Becca, and so it's there's a connection between me and you. um,
Yes,
there
I'd
has to
say
be.
so.
Yeah.
And you know what's so interesting, Kevin, is that that you and Becca are not the first people I've heard that are connected with this group. I've met two other people, one from Egypt. We spoke on Skype as well. I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. And I had a student of mine back about 7 years ago was starting to get messages from them as well. So they're apparently they're getting popular.
Well, they told me just recently we won't be working together for much longer, and that there'll be another group coming to me. Um, and I'm like, okay, I don't channel all the time, but when I do, and it told me that when I go to America, that I will meet someone that's going to take me to the next evolution for this newer group that's coming in. And it was kind of sad in one sense, but that's what this whole journey of the documentary is about, exploring what this channeling phenomena is in a sense, and also going deeper as well. And I love that you're channeling The One is just that's pretty special. So
Yeah.
yeah, now where do you go from here? Well, I suppose what's their main message for you, would you say? If they had a main message, what would that be?
Well, they made it very clear to me that my role here and during this incarnation is to show people the way back to source consciousness. Returning to source wisdom is the subtitle of the book. But it was basically to make sure that the message of, I don't want to say what we're doing wrong, but the collective shadow of humanity, to be aware of it and to utilize our natural innate abilities to reconnect with our higher self, and thus connecting with all of consciousness, source consciousness. But their main message is humanity must relearn this. We were connected at one time, but we've been distracted. We've had we talk about the fall from grace or whatnot, which I believe is just a symbolic metaphor for losing our connection to our higher self. And for me, that is what their main message has been through me, that humanity must reconnect with their higher self and reconnect with the source consciousness.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And is it just The One that you've been channeling? Were there any other entities that came through?
Well, not since my Vision Quest. I will say during. Actually, I take that back. After the Vision Quest, I did have, for a time there, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was very strange, a little Asian entity, for lack of a better term. He had an Asian accent. And
Right.
I never really heard it. I never really listened to it, but it was in my group, the magical group that I was a part of, that they would ask this being to come through, and they would ask you questions and whatnot. So unfortunately, we never recorded any of those, and I never really pursued it. And after I ended up leaving the group many years later. I never really pursued it or asked for this entity to come back again. But I would say that would be the only other occasion that I've had some entity come through.
Okay, okay. And so when you channel now, is it very much like, you hear the voice and you start repeating the voice, or you literally are just repeating what they're saying and it comes into sync eventually? Or how does it, just so that we've got that understanding of how it's one voice, but how is it coming through?
That's very interesting. It's not one voice. That's the problem with me.
Even now, even now.
even now, they are seven. These are seven entities, and it's very interesting that depending on what the question is that I have, or depending on the topic at hand,
Ah,
one entity, for lack of a better term, one consciousness will come through more than the others, so to speak. So I can almost tell which one of them is coming through, just usually by the cadence of the way they speak through me. But as far as tuning in, it's exactly that. It's just tuning in and saying, "Okay, guys, I need your help. You know, come through." Sometimes they'll speak through me, literally, like I said, which I don't like that so much anymore.
yeah.
But most of the time now, it's them sending me a download, for lack of a better term, and
Right.
me going, ah, okay, so this is what they're saying, you know.
Right, right. What do you think of the amount of channelers that are coming on the scene now as well? I mean, have you started to interview more channelers? You must have, come across many more channelers
Absolutely.
since you started to channel.
Absolutely. And, I do believe this is a part of the evolution of human consciousness. This is not going to be so paranormal or supernatural in the next several decades, I believe, because I do believe that humanity, every individual has the ability to contact, especially when we're talking about extraterrestrial life forms or whatnot. I believe that our contact is going to be through transdimensional channeling. That's kind of how they're going to prepare us, I believe, to let us know about their alien race, for lack of a better term, or whether it be the Arcturians or the Pleiadians or whatever it might be. I think that's how we're getting to know them, is through channeling, and much of that first contact is probably going to be through channeling.
But the confusing part of it sometimes, isn't it, is that, okay, so we're going to channel, so someone that comes on and channels an extraterrestrial entity, are they channeling them in real time, or are they connecting to an aspect of their consciousness that's, unaware of the ET, if it is here present now, that we've connected with that aspect of it, and it's the aspect of it that's bringing the information through, not the actual physical, so if someone was going to channel me, I don't remember that anything's ever channeled me before, but then have I let myself open for that? I don't know. Or if they are going to channel me, would it be an aspect of my consciousness they're channeling?
That's those are very good questions, and I can't help but think of what is it, C SETI or E SETI? They're
CSETI.
putting out C SETI puts out radio waves into into the cosmos, and they're picking up. They could be picking up these radio waves or messages. 100 years later, are we doing the same thing? Are we just picking up, like you said, energy, consciousness, and a message within that, and kind of trying to decipher it through our human mind?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had someone interesting on the other day, whose interview I'm going to release very shortly, who felt that, as a channeler, felt that a lot of these ETs that are connecting with us right now, are, yes, they're coming through with love and light, but they're not really helping us evolve our truth much beyond the point for the truth that they're at. So,
Very true.
yeah,
Very true.
um,
And
yeah.
very interesting. I'll add something about the Asian guy that was coming through. Maybe he does come through, now that I'm thinking about it, a little bit more than I want to give him credit for, is because one of the things that I have come to understand is exactly that these quote unquote, whether they're transdimensional entity races, whether they're extraterrestrial races, whatever it is, and this is going to be a little confusing, they're still a part of the illusion. So it's transcending even beyond that. And when I say the illusion, I mean it in the Buddhist
Yes.
sense of the
Yes. Yes.
word. When we talk about these galactic federations of light and the generals and the wars and whatnot, that's still an energetic construct. It's still just a thought form, an illusory thought form. So, but I'm constantly reminded that even me channeling these emissaries of light is still a part of that grand illusion of consciousness. It's still a construct.
Interesting you say it like that as well. It is. It is an illusion, and that's why we're going to go deep with the documentary, because is this all a bit of an illusion to the point we're up to now? I mean, I'm not wanting to take away people's timeless books. For example, your book, any other book that's out there, and especially the material from the challenge, because I think it's timeless, the material that you've written, right? But it's timeless to the point of where the consciousness is up to. So if we're up to that particular level of consciousness, that's where you resonate, and that's the material that's going to help you to get to the next level. That material is timeless to get you to the next level, but is that the only truth? What's beyond the truth of that, right? It's like saying what's beyond God. You know, we all say that God is the ultimate source, but then what's beyond that illusion? If there is, some people may say yes, but that is then not giving power back to God to say that you are, you know, that's the truth. But then I'm saying, well, is it the truth? What is this illusion, and whose illusion is it? In some respects.
Well, the Hindus have a great version of that with Brahma, and the story of Brahma and whatnot is perfect. This is all a dream. And one of the things that I will say is that the moment that, and this is one of the first lessons I learned during my shamanic vision quest, was that, yes, there was that part when I was connected with Source, with One, but within that, the moment I thought about it, it became an illusion. It's the experience that's not the illusion. It's when we begin to decipher it, think about it, put a word to it. I always use this story. I believe it's Ram Dass used to tell it, about God and the devil are walking down the street, and they see this bright light down at the end of the street, and God says, "Oh, look, truth." And the devil says, "Here, give it to me, I'll organize it." So it's that moment that we put our ego into it, and we start putting, you know, I always say what I'm saying needs to be felt. It can't be heard. We have to feel the words. We have to experience the message rather than linear, logically trying to decipher the message. This is something that needs to be experienced, because the moment we start thinking about it, we lose the truth.
We lose the truth, and it's almost like the illusion of where we are right now keeps itself so well hidden from us. And maybe we are we have
We're
caused,
part of it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We are part of this. We've caused ourselves to believe in the illusion. I mean, you know, I've been asking myself crazy questions recently. Well, what if we've already crossed over? What if this is a fragment of some journey that we're on from where we were to where we're going to? But it's almost like it's almost like being on a journey to just get a bit closer to heaven. We you know, but we've already moved on. We just don't know we have. But this is an easier way to get there. This is an easier, more comfortable way than where it's popping out your body and then you're all home. It sounds easy in the books that we read that's what happens. You know, we just go back home. But is it a fluffy cloud playing harps, or is it this? Is it this?
I like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the kind of questioning that we're going to go on in the documentary. You know, even to the point of how many times we talk about past lives, future lives. How many times have we lived this life?
That's a very good question. My understanding is that there are multiple dimensions. We could be living simultaneously on multiple dimensions. This could be the heaven of the hell dimension, or this could be the hell of the heaven dimension. But the thing is, though, and I think a lot of people get frustrated with this, is that we chose to be here. We chose to have the human experience, and we cannot deny our role in the story. It's a story.
Of course.
It's a story that we've created. And we are an actor in that story, and we can't deny our role in the story. And if that role in the story is to share peace and knowledge and wisdom, so be it. If it's to be the moron that everybody points and laughs at in order for them to learn something, so be it. But we are there. And the thing is that we need to really honor this experience. And I think that's the whole thing about the illusion, is to honor the illusion, because without it, there is no human experience.
we honor it, absolutely, and I can't get enough of it, right? I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now. I think, you know, being here, I try to do in my shows just as you do, to bring it all back every day, that being here is just so important. Yeah, to get lost about where we're going to go to, it isn't not always the best place to be, right? We are here, and it's about making this present moment more lovable, more acceptable, more peaceful, you know, having the reality that you want. But is that also the perfect excuse not to explore the illusion and to be stuck in the illusion as well? Is it a paradox in a sense? And if we have lived this life an infinitive amount of times, not just past lives or other lives, but even this aspect of our soul that's here conscious right now in the awareness that me and you are, this aspect has lived a lot this life again and again in different ways. You could use infinite dimensions and everything else, you know, different color hair, we've got, you know, whatever. The scenarios are a bit different, so to get something different out of it, maybe, hopefully. When does it become, when if we are on a perpetual circle, or we are not stuck, but we have been doing this with free will so many times, when does the illusion start to be more of a, well, there's something more and we could get there, but we're stuck on this? Now, is that the perfect excuse to just get lost in something that's unreal? Or is it time now, after doing this life so many times, to do something different, to make a change now?
Well, that brings me right back to what you were speaking of earlier, for me, and through my own experience, is once we have seen the glimpse through the veil, once we begin to understand the big picture, there is no going back. We cannot give up. I've tried to take the blue pill many times, and it just doesn't work. Once you've awakened to it, and there's something to be said for the initiatory paths, why they make it so difficult when you go into these mystery schools, and, you know, why do I take a year and a day to take a student on? I want to make sure that once they know the truth, that they're prepared for the truth. And once we know that truth, once we understand this is an illusion, once we understand that I love it. I went to the Landmark Forum about 10 years ago, and the Landmark Forum, their whole thing was, you know, at the end of the forum, we'll tell you what the meaning of life is. And what the meaning of life was, according to them, was the fact is that life has no meaning. And the fact that life has no meaning has no meaning. So it's like, oh my God, I waited 4 days for this, but it makes complete sense. We are the ones that give life meaning. And what does this experience mean to us is, I believe, what propels us moving forward. You know, there's a debate between, you know, free will and karma, for lack of a better term. And there is this thing, this momentum that is pushing us always, whether we like it or not. There are you know, actions and reactions going back our entire life that have propelled us into where we're going. So while we might think we have free will, in a sense, we are pushing ourselves into that next experience by our past experiences. So it's just, there is no getting away from it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No. Okay. But it's almost like the film The Matrix, where, you know, in the end, Neo realizes he's lived this life many times. And I didn't get the idea from there. It's just a great example. But they've downloaded the same example as I've got, right? And they put it in a goddamn movie, right? And it was always there, that movie. And I only remembered it the other day. And eventually he opens up the door and there's the white man in the control room, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? And you could see that figure as source or God. And, you know, in the end, he went through another door beyond that truth. So, you know, what is it we are not being told that's beyond that truth, or the truths that we know that could make even now better? That's kind of where I'm alluding to, in a sense. And that's what I want to do with the channeling documentary when people are in channeled mode, is to ask some of these questions of, okay, we know so we have a past, we go back home, we've got a life review, we get to meet up with folks, you know, they've built us a house, we're going to spend some time over there, going to get a bit bored, and then we're going to want to come back down here again. Or is it that, or is that the illusion we give ourselves that makes it acceptable to where we're going to go, but actually it's something bigger than that we've amnesitized ourselves from remembering, because either it would upset this experience, or we've wanted to do that because we've never felt worthy enough that we can go beyond, or it's part of the issue of why we're doing the things in the way we're doing it, because we're not prepared to imagine beyond that. And no one's talking about that in the spiritual community neither. It's always everyone repeats the same stuff like a parrot, and most people will say, well, yeah, a good detective will say, if the science is there again and again, it's the truth. But it's the truth based on an illusion, and that's my point.
Very good. And the only thing that I can share toward that, and I guess I'll save it for the film, but I've dabbled with that, what you're asking, that question, and I've literally experienced it. And from what I recall, and this is just me recollecting my experience, was that there was something beyond that, beyond this construct. But the thing is that there was nothing. And I know that sounds very Eastern metaphysical, but that was what I experienced. There was something beyond it, but it was nothing, and it was everything. And I know that's, typical Eastern philosophy, but that's what I felt. That's what I saw. That's what I experienced. And the interesting thing about that is that a student of mine back in, I would say 97, 98, I put her under into a trance. And in that trance, she started crying for the very same reason. She said, I went to the edge of reality and there was nothing there. And I was like, well, let's look into that a little bit more. And that's what piqued my curiosity. So is nothing a good thing, or is it a bad thing?
Or is nothing is nothing what we want it to be? Is that the imagination as far as we're prepared to imagine it is?
Because there you go. That's exactly it for me.
To imagine anything beyond there, it breaks the spell that we're in now. Did we give ourselves permission never to break that spell as long as we're here, wherever here is? I don't know. I'm and again, I'm trying to bring this, even in this interview, back to that person that's sat somewhere right now suffering from depression, or the person that's lonely and wants to commit suicide. I don't want to get lost in, not helping just the mundane stuff, but I think by asking these questions, maybe if someone like that was listening, if there was, or someone that knew that person was listening, hopefully something that we're saying would help to make sense of it. I hope.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope so too.
Yeah. I mean, I never used to. I mean, in my interviews before, it was very much like, tell us your story. That's your truth, and I do respect that. I must respect you. I respect your truth. I respect everyone else's truth. I really do. Yes. It's just, are we able to not? Are we able to look beyond that? Are we ready? Are we ready as individuals to go beyond what we think we know? I mean, how has it improved the world spiritually, do you think, with where we have been as a spiritual community so far?
How has it improved the world?
Well, yeah. I mean, I know spirituality is all about internal improvement, which resonates outward. So even just the way we treat people will show someone else how to behave. Not behave, but an example of what's better, right? Most times, right? Yeah. Right, we try. It's not always going to work, right? But, I mean, when I turn the news on right now, I mean, it's that, it's not the ascended or the world that's in this, fourth or fifth dimension that a lot of other people talk about out there, is it?
Right. No, not at all. And I know I might sound like a parrot, parroting what other people say, but the reality of it is that everything in the media that we see is for profit, and in order to keep that profit going, they've got to maintain the story, and that story is life is miserable, and look how horrible the world is. But the reality of it is, it's not. No. I do feel. And I do see a greater sense of awareness. And if that awareness leads to compassion, if that awareness leads to generosity, if that awareness leads to acceptance of people that are a little bit different from us, so be it. But I do see awareness growing, and I do see compassion growing. And it's very interesting that even 5 years ago, some of the things that were talked about, let's say on a community level, or on a even on a national level, the dialogue is changing and it is evolving. And so while it looks like baby steps looking from the outside in, if it is an entire society or an entire, even if it's just your local community evolving, I mean, that's a huge leap in human consciousness to begin to incorporate compassion, to begin to incorporate acceptance, to begin to incorporate social justice, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the things that we're talking about now, like, and again, this is a very mundane thing, but just for an example, the state of Hawaii wants to do a minimum income for all of its residents. I mean, that is a huge leap from where we were even 5 years ago. So to think about that that shows us the baby steps are coming and we are evolving. Now, to put it in contrast with what you're talking about, the beyond the beyond, beyond the beyond, I feel that if we go to that beyond the beyond, we're not going to want to come back. We won't need to come back. And for me, I've experienced that, and I didn't want to come back, and I was just literally thrown back and said, you're not done. You've got work to do, maybe to help more people get to the beyond the beyond. But we wouldn't want to. We would be so connected with the all. We'd be so connected with the love, with the source of all things, that I don't feel that we would even want to experience the human experience anymore. So maybe it is being kept at bay from us for a reason, so we can enjoy this, whether it be, well, enjoy or suffer through it or whatever it might be, depending on how we feel that day. Because that, one of the things I have to say is that people need to realize and remember, your life is never what you think it is, because what's happening right now with me is I'm enjoying a conversation with you. I could walk outside and get hit by a bus, or I could open the mail and get $1 million check donation. So everything is constantly in flux, ebbing and flowing. So it's very important for us not to identify with our story so much that we lose grasp of new experiences, and to let that experience unfold, well, naturally, for lack of a better term.
Yes. I suppose I just get it in my system that, Christ, imagine if okay, here we go again. Imagine if the universe repeated itself a number of times. So, we've done this, that's how we've done it before, because this has all happened before, right? And, maybe there is no end for that cycle. Maybe we just enjoy being on the cycle. Maybe we do. Maybe it's that simple. We just want to come back because this is a great place to have this experience, Yeah, but it's always that thing is, well, there's nothing better to do on a Saturday night from where we came from but to come here?
You just made a very good point, because think about it in the terms of time and space. If time and space is an illusion, our entire lifetime might be one Saturday night on that plane of consciousness.
It could be, couldn't it? It could be. Yeah. But I like the points that you've made as well, and I think they're really, those final points you made there are just really, really important. And I as we've said before in this interview, I think a lot more people are channeling now as well. It is a new paradigm that's going to come in, and I do believe that it is one way for those out there to wake up. But do you see a society one day in hundreds of years, maybe? I know we're here right now. We're not in 100 years' time, right? So it's really hard to even think of answering this question. But hey ho, that we could live in a society where we are more conscious towards each other.
I believe so. And, I don't talk about this much. Maybe I mentioned it to you last time, but there was a prophetic passage in my book that I removed. I didn't want anything prophetic in the book, but I will say this, that it said, we are coming to a place, and I'm paraphrasing, and I'm just remembering, we're coming to a place where we are seeing, we talk about that earth split, that two earth, with the earth of light and the earth of darkness. But we are coming to that place. And what they had said to me was that we are going to live in that world of compassion, of unity, of harmony, but we will easily be able to flip the switch and go back to that world of greed, anger, and hate, and fear, and whatnot, but by choice. So eventually, perhaps human consciousness is literally going to be turning the light on and off when it comes to fear versus love, you know, greed versus generosity. We may see that, and actually, I believe we're seeing it. We're going to see that. I don't want to say division, but it is. It's a division. It's a splitting of the worlds, and we're seeing it more and more. We're seeing, you know, the hate is rearing its head now, and we're seeing all the hate groups come up. And if anything, that is going to create a divide amongst our consciousness and what kind of world do we want to live in. So I do believe we're seeing some of that unfold, and perhaps maybe there will be, you know, maybe there'll be Nazi Earth and Love Earth one day. Who knows? Who knows?
Yes, I mean, you're referring to as well what happened in Charlottesville.
Yes.
Yeah, just over the weekend, which made international news straight away. That did, yeah.
Which is literally an hour and a half away from where I am.
Crazy. I mean, yeah, that was just, yeah, and that is a perfect example of that. And I know that's near and dear to your heart. These subjects are as well. Would you? I mean, look, thank you for sharing that chapter. That meaning, what do you call it? The poetic. I can't get the words out. What do you call it? Prophetic. Yeah. Sorry, God, dyslexic. What can I say? Prophetic. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. That's really special that you mentioned that. Actually, thank you. And yeah, I mean, you know, some people thought those two Earth splits were actually, you know, you'll be on one reality and others will be on another one. But then again, you know, in this documentary, as we explore it, I mean, I do feel what's going to come through is that we do shift between realities sometimes. So when that item's gone missing on that bed or the side, it's because you've shifted something in your reality that you're creating, to that you've shifted to another dimensional aspect of yourself, where there's multi-version, maybe there's infinitive versions of the same consciousness split in an infinite way, having different experiences in this same timeline, right? So maybe
exactly
that's where, you know, and we will be looking at that in the documentary as well, that there are, you know, alternative multiverses out there that we're all, Christ, I hope I can find the one where I'm stinking rich one day. But then again, maybe I wouldn't be happy. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll be some miserable person in some office somewhere. So, yeah, I love what you're saying there, and I've heard that in many ways. But it's beautiful that came in your book as well. I did not know that. Okay, well, look, we're almost at the end of the interview here, and I know 50 minutes has just disappeared.
Went by very fast.
Well, once we get beyond the beyond, it gets.
We shifted our consciousness.
Right. Well, look, you know, I mean, when I come see you, we'll do a proper in-person interview with the book, because obviously that's going to be a long interview with the book and the challenge session as well. And the book's been appearing up on the screen, and I think it's great channeled information. What would you, if there was any sort of, I mean, you've probably said it, but if there's any sort of closing comment, what would you like to say in regards to the work that you do?
Geez, where will I start? Where will I end? I would just say that it is very important for humanity to realize that we do have infinite abilities. We have the ability to channel. We have the ability to contact any being anywhere in the universe. It's just like a radio tuning in. Now, the one thing I will say beyond that, beyond the beyond, is that at any moment our life can change just by changing our mind. And not to get stuck in the story, know that your fluctuating moods and whatnot are just, you know, temporary, and not to get stuck in don't get stuck in the minutia. Stay, you know, aligned with the greater picture.
Absolutely. Well, look, Bernard, I can't wait to see you. Thank you for what you do with your show and the help that you've been giving people all these years in the awakening process. You've touched the lives of many millions, and you know there'll be people that you'll never come in contact on this side, but you know, on the greater expansion, when you see it, you'll see just how many lives that you did change and are changing and will continue to change as well. And as your guys have said, the work is very needed, and it ain't over yet. So Bernard, just thank you so very, very much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Kevin. Take care.
Well, we've come to an end on today's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests by going to themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.